Ladies and gentlemen, today on the program, could 2020 be the most important year of your life? We're going to talk about that on the other side. And hey, Denny Boy's back today and not a minute too soon. So hey, Denny Boy, do us a big favor and roll intro. Yeah, that's how you do it. Hello, you're listening to the John Huff Podcast. Oh, yay. I forgot about the resistance part, man. I know I make this sound pretty seamless, right? You tune in and you're like, man, it just flows from that dude. He's so articulate. Well, that's the power of editing, my friends, because I gotta tell you, the few minutes before I sit down and hit record and the few minutes after I hit record, those are the toughest moments of my week, okay? Now, hands down, the editing is the most time-consuming part. Now, I sit down and I record for like an hour most times, it turns out to be. That is what it is, but it's the editing that's the most time-consuming part. That's what I spend my weekends doing. The reason that I record on Friday evenings, usually I have Friday evenings to myself, and then it gives me the whole weekend to do the editing part, and Monday for a spillover, if I need it, and then Tuesday I can publish, and then spend Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday doing the promoting part of this whole one-man show, this one-man circus. But I record Friday nights so that I've got the time to do the editing, because the editing is what takes so much of the time. But it ain't the hardest part, kids. The hardest part is that few moments before I hit record and the few moments after. Because that's the part where the resistance comes, all right? That's the part where the little voice rises up and said, dude, what are you doing, man? Like, why are you doing this? What do you think you have to offer? How vain can you be? How full of yourself can you be to sit down and record yourself talking and put that out into the world? What is wrong with you, man? What makes you think you have anything to say? And the reality is, a lot of times when I sit down to hit that button, I feel like I don't. Now, I make notes. I got my notes on what I might talk about, how I might try to articulate it. And that's a delicate balance, man, because I'm one of those people who, if it's too meticulously planned, I kind of blow myself out. If I script the thing, it's toast. I won't be able to deliver it properly because the impetus, the inspiration will be on the paper, on the digital paper that I wrote the whole thing down on. And so the emotion, the power of it, the flow of it will be on that and not in the voice. So I sort of tap dance. I kind of Sammy Davis Jr. along this line between prep and improv. And the problem with prep versus improv is that if you tip too much either way, you probably fall off the balance beam and deep into a bad episode. And I fear a bad episode, man. So the resistance comes before I sit down because the resistance wants to stop me from doing this at all. Because why? Much easier to just slough off and go watch Netflix for the night rather than put myself in a position of vulnerability, which is recording an episode, and then when I sit down to edit it, or probably even before I get to the editing part, usually by the time I hit stop on the recorder, I know if I got myself a dud or if I have something with potential. And if I have something with a dud, gonna ruin my whole night, gonna freak me out, gonna make me not want to do this anymore. This hangs by a delicate balance, kids. There's an existential thread here that's mighty, mighty thin. And that thread gets a little bit stretched every time I sit down. The few minutes before I hit record, the few minutes after I hit record. And so it is tonight, this Friday night, the 13th, where I struggled to hit record, man, because, I don't know, it's resistance, it's self-preservation, it's difficult, and I question a lot whether what I do here has even the most remote value. Now, as I've said recently, I try to, come at it with a base level of let's offer at least an hour of friendly chat. You have these elevated ideals about what you would want something like this to do, how many lives you would want it to change, how much of a difference it might make in the world, but sometimes you gotta just pull it down to maybe somebody, somewhere, will be comforted, soothed, buoyed, inspired, a little less lonely for an hour if I just push past the resistance and do this. We're keeping the goals modest, okay? But it's really, really hard, and one of the things that sells most is vulnerability, kids, so I'm coming at you vulnerable right off the hop tonight, Friday the 13th. And, I've been thinking for the past couple of weeks about how to be articulate about what I'm about to talk about. Because I'm super duper reluctant to do the kind of existential stuff that would seem to be me trying to tell anybody how to live. Not qualified to do that. Can barely live myself. I'm in many ways a 47-year-old child, all right? But 2020 being 2020, it demands some sort of debriefing. 2020 demands a look, man. Like, go back through the last 10 years of your life, all right? 2010 up until this moment. And can you really put any years in context? Can you differentiate 2012 from 2014, from 2011? I can't. Not really. I mean, there are events that happen and I know that happen, right? And I can pinpoint 2017 because of a tour, or I can pinpoint this or that. But what stands out in any of those years? It's obviously going to be different. Life-changing things happen every year for people, okay? But 2020, on a global level, is one you're going to remember, right? It's one of those years, and it demands a review. And I'm not going to do a review of 2020, but it demands some insight. This is an existential year for the entire world, bar the remote places who have not yet been touched by the COVID-19 virus. But the thing is not going away, man. And what I'm noticing is just a lot of heavy-duty angst about that, And I'm seeing a lot of my friends who are struggling with depression. I went through a huge anxiety thing this summer. And, what's compounding that is that it's not getting better, all right? Where I live, they're setting records every day for new infections. It's happening everywhere. UK is going into further lockdowns. I have friends in Germany telling me that they are again pulling back into more of a lockdown situation. It's happening here where I live in Canada. It's happening all across Canada. Canada is on its own, practically a continent. So, different parts of this country it's happening. States is a gong show. So the COVID thing is not going away. And I think back in March when this began as kind of a novel thing, we didn't really imagine that come November, it would have taken the psychic toll that it's taken and the practical toll that it's taken for a lot of people. And that we'd come here in November and it would be worse. And they talked about a second wave, and I don't think any of us were all that scared of a second wave, right? I think we had in our heads that we'd be okay. And then I think very, very early on, a lot of us had the idea that this is, they're trying to scare us. This is not going to be as bad as they say. And yeah, survival rates are high physically, all right? The mental side of it, though, as I've said before, has yet to be tabulated. The mental ramifications we haven't seen yet. And we're coming around to November. 8 months of this, whatever it's been. 9 months of this. And I'm starting to see the mental toll really begin to show itself, especially as now, we've gone through so much and we're rolling back into worse again. It's not getting better, it's getting worse. And that drop from a higher height kind of thing, The drop again hurts harder, I think, the second time because we know maybe what we're in for. And people have had enough, man. There's just this black energy around the world that a lot of people like me are absorbing. And so it's compelling to me because this is a year that demands a review. This is a year that demands both introspection and extrospection. I don't know if that's a word, but if it isn't, I'm going to claim it because I dig that. It's a year for extrospection. We need to look around and see what on earth is going on here and how this is affecting people. But I saw something recently in my travels that I had to stop and think about. And I wanted to talk about this a couple weeks ago. And in fact, I did talk about this a couple weeks ago, but then I cut that. I do this a lot, that seamless thing again. Sounds really good when I release, but, you don't see the chaos that is the raw audio from these things. And I talked a lot about what I'm about to talk about, but it didn't sit well with me, and it probably still doesn't, but I feel like I want to address it, and here it is. I saw something on the internet recently, and I'm a little bit paraphrasing, but it was, what if 2020 is the best year of your life? What if it is? I don't know. It didn't sit well with me. What if it's the best year of your life? It didn't sit well with me for a lot of reasons. People die, man. That's not the best year of their life. But I appreciated the concept. And so I thought, what if 2020 is the most important year of your life? This is a year of massive change, man. And we as a species don't change well. We don't like change. And this is a little bit scary because we're seeing stuff happen that we do not control and don't know how to control. And we know that the people who are in authority that make the decisions don't know what to do either. This is a little bit scary, but what if this is the most important year of your life? And I thought about this and I thought, well, there's two ways that that's possible. Because 2020 could force you to change your direction, which might be the best thing that ever happened to you. Or 2020 might force you to double down on the direction you've already got. There's a lot of things coming into focus here. I was playing drums this week. I still practice drums every day when I can. Just most of the time because I'm now an out-of-work drummer. And, I was playing along to a War on Drugs album. I love the War on Drugs, and we're going to talk about the War on Drugs down the line because they are going to release a live album soon, and I'm very stoked about that. And they got a new studio album coming, which is wonderful. I'm looking forward to that too. I was playing along with some War on Drugs because I love the band, and I love Charlie Hall, the drummer, and he plays the way that I kind of aspire to play, and so I was playing with Charlie, and I'm like, I like this. There's a reason why I do this. There's a reason why I've sacrificed a heavy-duty amount of financial peace of mind to pursue this over the past few years, right? And, earlier in the summer, I had to force myself to play the drums. Now, I was going through a thing, all right? I was definitely having a COVID moment for a lot of the summer. But I kept practicing every way, but I was forcing it. And I was not seeing a future. At that point in time, I was not seeing a lot of potential in music. Still struggle with that, by the way. But I've always struggled with that. COVID didn't cause that for me. But I was sitting down and I was playing along, and I was reminded that I really love this. I really love playing the drums, man. And sometimes, as Tom Kiefer sang, you don't know what you got till it's gone. And I'm being reminded in a heavy way lately because my Facebook memories are all full of November 2017. November 2017, right about now, 3 years ago, I was in Europe with Sarah Smith doing our first full band European tour. A month in Europe with Sarah Smith. You can buy the book I wrote about that from my website at john-huff.com. So it's coming up, these memories, man. Playing these great shows and these clubs that you forget about because, we've subsequently done two more tours over there and we've played everywhere else. And it's like things blur together, but these memories pop up. Oh, do you remember that night? Do you remember that night on the Reeperbahn? Do you remember the Queen of the Dead? Do you remember playing in Leverkusen at that great little club? Topos, and we went that afternoon and had coffee down in the square. You know, do you remember playing that club in the Netherlands? Do you remember playing? And these memories just come back and they're fun, you know. You remember doing these things and it feels like a different time and a different life and a different planet. Seems like a fairy tale, man. You spent your whole summer kind of bugging out, having panic attacks and dealing with the COVID thing, and all your gigs are gone. You know, I lost two European tours this year due to the COVID. It was supposed to go in May, was supposed to go in September. Plus all the other stuff that I had booked for the summer. All gone away, you know. And so it's all kind of coming back to me now that this was the life I had, you know? And I missed that. And so I'm playing along with the War on Drugs and I'm playing along with the Sarah Harmer record and just trying to enjoy playing the drums again. It was like, I really love this. And it takes something like a COVID to remind you sometimes how much you love that thing. How much you love playing the local bar on Friday night. How much you love your rec sports team that you can't play with now, you know? How much you maybe miss the people from your job that you don't get to see anymore because everybody's working from home, you know? And it's like 2020 COVID maybe provides an opportunity or an impetus or just a chance to remember how much you appreciated what is now gone. That doesn't mean these things are going to be gone permanently, man, but what it might mean is that when they come back, you'll be more fired up than ever to engage in them, and you will appreciate more than ever the opportunity you've had to do them, right? And that could make 2020 the most important year of your life, because to what extent were you just floating along? To what extent were you just floating along, doing what you're doing, because it's what you've always done, and then COVID took something away from you that you realized you were taking a bit for granted, and now you miss it so much. And how much does that stoke the fire, man? How much can 2020 stoke the fire of whatever it is you can't do anymore? Now, you can sit back and lament these things, right? You can sit back and you can be in the dumps about how I can't play shows anymore, about how music is gone and my dream is dead, and it'll never come back, and I don't know what to do, and I'm depressed, and it's totally 100% A-OK to lament and be depressed about something that's gone. But, you know, that only gets you so far, and you can only endure that for so long, because it pulls you down the hole, man. You take a little step, you put one little foot in that kind of quicksand, right? That quicksand of depression, that quicksand of negative thinking, that quicksand that says, you know, I've lost my thing and it's never coming back, and it hurts me. And it's okay to be hurt by that, man. But the longer you indulge that, the deeper you put your foot in the quicksand, the more it will suck you down. And that's a real danger, man. It's a real danger to let that linger. You need to learn, I've needed to learn, to flip it. So instead of being, I can't tour anymore and my life is over, maybe it's, I took touring for granted and I really miss it. And when that comes back, I'm going to dig in with all I got, man. In whatever form it comes back, I'm going to make it work, and I'm going to love it. And I'm going to love going to that club where we only play to 10 people, you know? And I'm going to love that festival stage where we get to play in front of a couple thousand. And I'm going to love traveling to those places. And I'm going to love the late nights. And I'm going to love packing up the gear. And I'm going to love getting my gear ready. And I'm going to love practicing for those things. I'm going to love it hard, man. It can stoke the fire. And I'm going to build my life around being able to do that all the time. You know, 2020 can provide that impetus. If you let it, it can push you to higher heights whenever the opportunity allows again. And I know that feels like naive thinking. I know that feels like silver linings, pie in the sky stuff. But we need pie in the sky stuff right now, man, because Lord knows we got enough reality, okay? And it sucks that music is gone. And it sucks that I lost 2 tours. And it sucks that I lost all those gigs. And it sucks that I don't have anything on my radar. Forever at this point. There's literally 0. And it sucks. And I could lament that hard. And at times I probably have. But the thing is, I come from a public relations background, all right? I still have a foot in the traditional world, the traditional public relations world. And one of the tenets of PR is that there is an opportunity in every crisis, okay? So no matter what happens to your business or organization, there is an opportunity there to do the right thing and say the right thing and present the right image and actually enhance your reputation in the world. Every crisis presents that opportunity. And I look at 2020 as a crisis presenting an opportunity. And it took me a while to get here, okay? I can only look at my own life. I can only speak with any kind of authority on my own experience. But I talked about having lost the Euro tours, 2 of them, and some gigs this summer. But I tell you straight up, wasn't a lot of gigs, all right? I did not have a full summer booked, and it was scaring me. And I'll be honest with you, music's been scaring me for a while, okay? This has very much been a situation of barely holding on, all right, for me. Love it, play a lot of gigs, but the financial side is dicey. The financial side is dicey for a lot of musicians, man, a lot of artists, those who are trying to do it full time. Trying not to rely on some other income to get through. The finances are tough and a lot of people drop out for that reason. Probably more for that reason than any other because it's sheer practicality. You got to live. You got to pay the bills, man. And it's been a problem for me in music, trying to hang on. And music has a way, at least in my experience, of being like, all right, we'll get you this tour and that's good. And you get through that and then, I haven't got anything booked. I should probably get a job, but there's another one in 2.5 months, so I'll hold on for that one and see how things change. The music kind of pulls me along that way, Deep down in my heart, I'm like, I don't know how much longer I can do this, man. I want to, but something's got to change here if I'm going to survive at this, or I need to let go of it. And go into something that pays the bills and reframe my relationship with music, right? But didn't do that. Deep down, kind of knew I needed to at least consider that, all right? Now, I'm not telling anybody to quit the dream. Do not quit the dream. But 2020 might inspire you to reframe or adjust the dream. Or think differently about it, and that's something that I've had to do. My dark summer of the soul was a lot about that. It was a lot about how do things need to change, and how can I be okay with that, and what 2020 maybe has done for you, even if you haven't acknowledged it, is taken away the thing that you've been holding on to hardest, that doesn't necessarily serve you in the way that you want it to or hoped it would. That could be music. Maybe you've been scraping along, kind of, getting to the end of every month with nothing in your pocket, freaking out about the next month ahead, wondering how you're going to pay your rent, wondering how you're going to pay your bills, wondering how you're going to fix your car to get to the next gig. That's the way it is for a lot of musicians, at least at my level. And for levels above me too, by the way. And maybe you've known deep down inside that this paradigm of trying to play music full time and going hungry is not setting you up for the happiest life. But you hold on and you hold on and you hold on and you hold on because there's another tour, there's a group of shows, and maybe there'll be a bunny in that, and we're going to release a record, and But maybe you've known you need to reframe that, but you didn't quite have the courage to do it, and then 2020 took it away and forced you into a different paradigm. Life will eventually force you to make decisions. And I use music as the illustration because that's my experience. But it's forced me. 2020's put me in the place where I need to be okay with things being different, right? And that could make 2020 the most important year of my life, where I step down from the way I want to force things to be and strive for things to be, and instead accept how things are. The Tao Te Ching says, have faith in what is, right? I've never done that before until the summer of 2020, when my wheels came off in the midst of all this COVID and all of the anxiety and all the fear and all of the change. And I realized I cannot rely on myself. Mentally, emotionally, I need to give it up, man. I need to let go. I need to have trust in something beyond me, something higher than me, even if it just is me. I have to be okay with what is and have faith in what is. And if that means that I have to get a job and I have to reframe where music fits in my life, and I can have a little dignity, and I can pay my bills, and I can feel better about myself, and still play a lot of music whenever music comes back, then that's okay, man. Maybe that makes me happier. Maybe that makes me less stressed out. Maybe that makes me feel, less unworthy. Maybe that makes me feel just a little more dignified, and that's okay. Would I have got there without 2020? Or would I have kept just hanging on, and not getting anywhere? Would I have taken the step? Would I have had the courage to at least think about, consider a different sort of schema from my life? Without 2020 come along and said, I'm taking that. I'm taking music from you, and you need to consider a different paradigm for your life. It's a good question, man. But could that make 2020 the most important year of my life? The year that whatever I was holding on to that wasn't serving me was taken away so that I could make room for something else? And I talked about music, but maybe it's not that. Maybe it's a job. Maybe you had a freaking job that you just hated, and it was giving you skin rash waiting for Monday. Maybe you check out on Friday and work for the weekend, man, and then you only get one day, Saturday, you blow your brains out, and then Sunday, Monday's coming. The dreaded Monday, and you're going to walk into the office on Monday, and somebody's going to say, have you got a case of the Mondays today? And you're going to take your stapler and you're going to staple something to that person's forehead. Because you hate that job, and that job is killing you. And what you really wanted to do is this. And then COVID came along and took that away, man. And that's scary. That's scary because you lost your income. You lost all the things that you were clinging to in that position that you needed. But you also lost all the things you hate. And maybe that could make 2020 the most important year of your life. The year that job you hate got taken away, and it hurt for a long time trying to get by on the EI and whatever else you could do. But eventually, that blossomed into the new job you got, or that blossomed into the new business you finally started because all the rules are out, man. You had nothing else to do but start that business. You had nothing else to do but to create that online presence. You've been avoiding it for years because you didn't think it could work, and you didn't know just how to do it, and you weren't guaranteed anything, so you kept the safe job. Well, guess what? Safe job wasn't guaranteed either, and now you've got this opportunity to make the thing, to do the painting, to start consulting, finally, which is what you wanted to do all along. Or to turn around and go back to school and get the qualifications for that thing you really wanted to do, but you never did because you had your job. Your job was stopping you from doing that. Very convenient excuse, but then COVID took the excuse away. COVID took all the supports away and left you with no other option but to do the thing you wanted to do anyhow. And could that make 2020 the most important year of your life? In every crisis, there's an opportunity. Now, I'm looking around at my friends and I'm seeing this illustrated everywhere, and I'm seeing people I know and love doing cool stuff, man. Now I'm thinking of Ken the Zen. My good buddy Ken the Zen. Now he was my road warrior pal, man. He and I in the touring van together, okay? All the way down to the Mexican border, out to the East Coast, over to Europe, all around where I live. Ken the Zen and me. Now music has been Ken the Zen's full-time job for a decade or more. Thousands of shows all over the place. But COVID took Ken the Zen's music away. And what did Ken the Zen do with that? Well, Ken the Zen started the Music Trivia League. That's what he did with it. So he poured all this time and the energy he had that used to go to music, and he poured that into building a thing of his own, right? Into creating this thing that he's talked about for a long time. And it took some prep, and it took some research, and it took a lot of learning, and it took a lot of fumbling around. But he did it. He built the thing. Would Ken the Zen have built the Music Trivia League had COVID not come along and taken away music from him? Ken the Zen got himself a semi-regular job, so he don't have to worry about the money anymore. It's cool. He's having a good time. And he's got the Music Trivia League. And what will that do for Ken the Zen? Well, that will give him a lot of peace of mind, give him a creative outlet, put some positive momentum in his life, and I wouldn't be surprised if eventually it turned into some new songs from Ken the Zen. Why? Because he's elevated, because he's feeling happier, because he's engaged in something that's his. And what happens when you do that is creativity starts to flow, man. Now I look at my good pal Denny boy, and Sarah Smith herself. What did they do? Music is their livelihood. Playing shows is their livelihood. What they do is go around and play hundreds of times a year everywhere. COVID came along and took that away. Denny and Sarah both bought school buses. That's right, kids. They bought school buses. And what are they doing with the school buses? They're turning them into mini homes. And what are they going to do with the mini homes? Going to drive them away. Now, from the day I met Denny Gauthier 4 or 5 years ago and started touring with him 3 years ago, that dude has been talking to me about a dream he had to get himself some sort of mobile home situation, whether that was a traditional mobile home or like a smaller thing or a camper van or whatever, and just hit the road, man. Dude likes to travel. Dude likes the adventure. And playing shows used to provide that for him, but he's always had this little fantasy, this little dark fantasy in the background that says, I want to get on a thing, I want to get into a vehicle, and I just want to drive off and live in it and see things and be on the road and be in an adventure. Couldn't do that really because he was playing music all the time and making records and producing records and doing the thing, and all that's wonderful and great. And when COVID took that away from him, Denny Boy did not lament much. Denny Boy did not allow himself to dig too deep down in the depths. He and his wife pumped up their little merch business a little bit more, make a bit of money that way. And you can go to Second Record Studios, I think, and find out about the merch that Denny offers. Denny also made my t-shirts, of which I have a few left, so go to my website /store. I think it's store. You can find t-shirts there. They're great t-shirts, and Denny made them. But Denny didn't lament much losing the music. He poured himself into this other dream, man. I want to have a mobile home and I want to drive it away. And then as soon as the COVID came, he's like, an opportunity sprung up to buy a decommissioned school bus and convert it into the mobile home he's talking about and drive it away. And he's doing it. Go to Instagram, Schoolie4 6, SKOOLIE for 6. And you can follow the whole process. The videos are there. I went out a week or so ago to take a look at how things are coming along. And they stripped the bus, they gutted the thing, they took it out, they're putting in the insulation, the flooring, and the new windows, and they're going to put all the furniture in, and it's going to be a mobile home, and it's going to be great. And Denny's going to realize this dream that he always had, that he wasn't going to fulfill, likely, until the COVID came along and took away his life and left him with this opportunity. And Sarah did the same thing. Now, Sarah's been on the road forever. Like 15 years, Sarah's been on the road. And it's tiring, man. And it's tough. It's tough to be a band leader, an indie band leader trying to make this happen, being basically a one-person shop. And COVID took that away from Sarah. And Sarah did the same thing as Denny. She said, I'm not going to let this beat me. Music has changed. Music might go away for a while. And in the meantime, I'm going to indulge this dream that she had too. I'm going to build this mini house out of a bus. And we're going to drive it away. We're going to take advantage of this opportunity, this crisis created by COVID for musicians. Also presents an opportunity, man. An opportunity to dig deep into something else, and then one of two things happens out of that, right? Denny Boy and Sarah drive away in their bus, and they realize this is the bliss. They realize this is what they want most. They realize this is how they are happiest. And they wouldn't even have known had not the COVID come along. Or the other side of it is they drive away, and they realize this is cool and we like it. And man, I miss making music. And those fires start getting stoked, man. Just like I talked about. A recommitment, a reaffirmation to the dream. 2020 might provide that for them. And they may return from their travels sometime next year. Who knows? They may pop up and say, we're going at it full time, man. Music is open again. And we're back, and we had a break, and we recharged, and we missed it, and we're ready to kill it. And that might push them to higher heights than they've ever known before. And maybe they'll both take a drummer with them. The potential is there out of this, and that could make, if they look back 5-10 years from now, they look back and they say, man, the year it all changed was 2020. The year we built the buses and we were never happier in our lives, and we drove off into the sunset, and now we're just so fulfilled and stress-free and happy, and we're in the nice weather all the time. And this is living, man. Or they may look back in 5 or 10 years from the highest heights of their musical careers, right? And they may say, 2020 was the year that changed it, man. Because we couldn't play music anymore, and we drove away, and we realized how much we love music. And we came back more dedicated than ever, and it pushed us. And we had a year off to write new music, and we did, and it's the best music we ever wrote. For you musicians out there who are lamenting, the ones who have lost the gigs like me, the ones who have lost the livelihood like me, can you use that to propel you to the highest heights? Or can you use that, if it's what was needed, to make a shift on your perspective on how you live, how music fits in your life? The thing I've learned this summer, my dark summer of the soul, is to accept things and be okay with things. And I realized that the message was getting in just today. Because I went to the Canadian Tire store to buy a pump sprayer to clean off my driveway. And I walked in the door and they were playing the Christmas music. And every other year until now, hearing the Christmas music this early in November would have made me angry, man. It would have ticked me off, and we all know why. Because the Christmas music sucks, okay? Now, I can get behind your Bing Crosby, all right? I can get behind some of the classics. I can get behind your Sinatra. But we all know that the modern Christmas music mostly sucks. Some of the worst pop music that gets played on the radio every year is your Christmas music, right? And you can deal with it for 2 or 3 weeks. If this popped up like mid-December and we had like in the stores and there's the energy and it's happy. And I'm not a curmudgeon, by the way, not a Grinch over here, not a Scrooge. I like Christmas, all right? Christmas is one of my favorite times of year because I love the buoyancy and I love the energy in it. And man, is it timely, because we need it right now. We need Christmas right now. Or whatever holiday you celebrate this time of year. Normally, I'd walk in and I'd hear the Christmas music and it'd make me crazy, make me nuts, because I hate the Christmas music. But today, I was okay with the Christmas music. Christmas music actually felt good. You know, if 2020 has taught us anything, maybe it's taught us what's worth getting upset over and what isn't. And Christmas music in the grocery store or in the Canadian Tire 6 or 7 weeks before Christmas is irritating, but not a thing to get upset about. I used to work for a director of education who would say things to me like, "Is it a hill to die on?" And he was using that if we were confronting a situation or if we had to make a decision, you know, a difficult decision. Is it a hill to die on? Is whatever we're proposing here so important that we're willing to stake everything on it? Is it so important that we're going to make a thing about it? Is it worth dying over this thing? Is this the thing to die on? Is this the hill? Usually it wasn't. Usually whatever it was that was at stake wasn't really that important at all in the grand scheme of things. Neither is Christmas music in the stores. I've had to learn to accept what is and have faith in what is and see the opportunity in what is. What's that meant for your boy? Well, I'm applying for jobs, folks. I have credentials. I have experience. I wouldn't mind getting paid regularly. That's not such a bad thing. And I wouldn't mind a little bit of dignity. And so I'm doing that. And I've poured myself into this podcast. And I know the podcast matters because I have that resistance that I talked about at the beginning. You know, the opportunity is here right now to try to make something out of this. To try to push this, to try to see if this can actually become a thing or not. And it might not. But it's like, I had quit, you know. The dark summer of the soul, I didn't produce the podcast. I wasn't up to it. You know, it wasn't in me. I didn't want to be visible. And now you come through the other side of that and you're like, okay, this is the world. This is where we're at. You know, I'm looking for a job. I got time. What can we do with this? What can we pour ourselves into that we couldn't before? You know, because we didn't have time because of all the stuff that COVID has taken away. And I'm still practicing the drums, man. I have not given up on the dream. I'm more excited about the dream than ever. I'm more drawn to the dream than ever, man. I want to play music. I want to tour. I want to grow. I want to do that. And I'm still doing my best to prep for that. The difference now is that I'm okay if it doesn't happen, because if it doesn't happen, that means that something better will happen. And I know that's pie in the sky thinking, man. I know that that can be construed as naive thinking. But what's better? What's better? Thinking that if one thing doesn't work out, something better will work out, or thinking that if one thing doesn't work out, life is over. You tell me, man. Be a realist if you want to, but you can still do that with just a little bit of ring of hope. You can still have a ring of hope, man. And I have it, and that's why I'm down at the drum set every day trying to get better, because Lord knows I need to get better. But I'm also trying to appreciate that, man, and I'm also trying to enjoy that. And I'm also trying to imagine a time and a world when I'll be able to do that again, and maybe grow with that. But being okay if that doesn't happen. That's the big lesson of 2020 for me, man. Being okay with things, and having optimism and faith that things will work out better than you had in mind. And I hope in a year I'm talking to you, still doing the podcast, perhaps in the midst of a tour, playing really good shows, you know, and feeling as though I'm advancing and feeling as though things are okay and being fine with that. I hope that. I hope that things are growing by then, and I'm still doing the show, and the show's a thing, and everything is worked out. But you know, if in a year from now I'm looking back and I'm in a job that pays well, where I like the people I'm working with, where I feel good and I feel happy, and I've got a gig here in town on Friday night with somebody, I'll be okay with that too, man. It's the attachment, all right? 98% of the pain in my life has come from attachment, right? Needing things to be a certain way. Needing things to work out in a certain way that suits my ego. And by ego, I mean my lower level thinking, right? Not my elevated spiritual kind of thinking, not the higher me, not the true self. but in a way that my lower ego, who needs acknowledgement and who needs to be in control, that my lower ego wants, and I have attachment to things like that. Gigs that I got, gigs that I didn't get, jobs that I got, jobs that I didn't get, opportunities that I got, opportunities that I didn't get. You attach to those things, right? And it causes pain. It causes suffering to yourself, So one of the things I've had to learn for years, this is not a new thing, is about detachment. It's about letting go. And again, that comes down to being okay with what is. And 2020 threw the rules out, man. And I know a lot of you out there have a lot more freedom in weird ways than you've had before. Now is the time to indulge that freedom. Now is the time to take a shot. Now there's nothing absurd anymore. There's nothing absurd anymore. You want to start a blog and you think people are going to laugh about that? Who gives a crap? Hasn't 2020 taught us who gives a crap what people think, really? It's like, just do the thing, just take advantage of what opportunity there is here in this crisis. I've had to learn to detach from the dream. I still hope the dream happens. I still hope other dreams happen. But just being okay with what is takes away a lot of the stress and pain and anxiety, man. And if you're one of the people who's feeling that right now, and you probably are because most of us are, I still am to a certain extent, I feel for you. I feel for me. I feel for all of us. This year has been heavy. Man, it's been heavy. But could it be, in retrospect, the most important year of your life? Could it be the year that everything changed for the better? The most important year of your life, not the easiest year of your life. Remember that. Not the easiest year of your life. Man, relationships are coming apart. I know people whose relationships are coming apart. That's sad, man. But maybe it's the best thing. Maybe it's a step that they would not have taken had COVID not eventually forced their hands, It's like, what are you clinging to that COVID has taken away that needed to be taken away? I'm still coming to grips with all that. Maybe you are too. But try to see the opportunity in the crisis. Don't lose hope that things will come back that you've lost. Maybe even better than they ever were before. It's possible. And I don't see the point in imagining otherwise. Well, that turned into a 50-minute or so diatribe, kids. I was not expecting that. I thought maybe 20 on that topic, which leaves me some stuff for next week. I'm going to make a couple of quick recommendations. If you don't believe me, and if you're a podcast person, and you probably are, go check out the Jim Fortin podcast. That's Changing Your Life from the Inside Out with Jim Fortin, Fortin. Jim Fortin is a NLP guy, neuro-linguistic programming, and I don't have time to tell you what that is right now, but look it up. And he's like a business coach, and he works with a shaman who is his brother-in-law. And this is esoteric and spiritual stuff, but pulled down to a practical level, right? So if some of what I'm saying to you, some of this naive stuff, some of this metaphysical stuff is grabbing you, if it's working on you, go check out Jim Fortin, who knows more than me and is more articulate about it. And his episodes are like 30, 35 minutes, digestible, practical, actionable spirituality, metaphysics, stuff to start thinking about to reframe your perspective on the world and start to see it more optimistically and start to understand how your thoughts affect your life and how your words affect your life. And that's a big one for me, man. I've had to learn to change my words big time about what I say about my life, what I say about my potential, what I say about the world. It's all connected, man. So if you're in any way interested in this stuff, go check out Jim Fortin. And if you want to go super deep, this ain't going to be for everyone, but if you want to go super deep, Ram Dass Here and Now. Ram Dass Here and Now. All right. This is just a whole podcast of lectures by Ram Dass, the late great spiritualist Ram Dass, mostly from the Hindu perspective. I don't have a lot of time to go into who Ram Dass is, but he was originally, he's American, originally was a psychology professor. Princeton, Harvard, Stanford, one of the Ivy League places. He and Timothy Leary started getting into the psychedelics, the doors of perception, all that stuff in the 60s. And that, all the acid and everything, man, this was Ram Dass. And so he wound up in, most likely, I guess it was India. I'm not articulating well about Ram Dass, but he became kind of an acolyte, a disciple of a guru there, and then became one himself. He became Ram Dass, and he is the most delightful and peaceful and intelligent man he was. Beatific smile, would swear a lot, talked a lot about drugs and took a lot of drugs and on the quest for spirituality. And I'm not recommending one way or the other taking psychedelics, but if you want to go super deep on the metaphysical stuff, Ram Dass here and now. I got to tell you, man, all summer long I listened to Ram Dass. I did all summer. When I was having the dark summer of the soul, Ram Dass's voice was the guide. And just listening to his voice for 45 minutes can soothe you, man. Even if you don't grasp necessarily the concepts, just listening to that man talk can pull you out of a depression. It can make you feel better. So if you want to go deep, if you want to get heavy on the stuff, Ram Dass is also quite funny. So, these are not difficult lectures. He's an entertaining and insightful man, he was. God stroked him, as he said a few years ago. He had a stroke, so he laughingly said God stroked him. But Ram Dass here and now, Jim Fortin podcast. This is the esoteric stuff. This is the metaphysical stuff. This is the spirituality, actionable, practical. And if you're at all interested in that, go check it out. And if you're not at all interested in that, who'd have thought AC/DC would save us all, kids? But go listen to the new AC/DC single, Witch's Spell. Man, who'd have thought AC/DC would get us through this? Sometimes, man, if you don't need Ram Dass, if you don't need psychedelics, if you don't need Jim Fortin, if you don't need a shaman, you just need rock and roll, kids. So if all else fails, go listen to AC/DC. I'm going to go and marvel at the fact that I somehow got another episode together. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope it helped you. Write to me. Let me know it did or didn't. Let me know if you want clarification, if you want me to talk about something else. And I want to give a shout out to my dear friend Angelica in Austria, about whom I did the Vienna section, or for whom I did the Vienna section on the last one. Angelica sent me a wonderful illustration of Snoopy flying his Sopwith camel. She's a wonderful artist. I so appreciated that. Thank you, Angelica. I hope you're doing well. I hope everybody's doing well. I'm going to go now. Enjoy this week. Flip your perspective. Look for the opportunity in the crisis, kids. And I'll talk to you next time. Thank you once again, gentle listener, for taking in today's show. If you want to know more about the program, go to www.john-huff.com. That's JOHN-HUFF.com and click on podcast. You can also find the show on Facebook at The John Huff Podcast. If you're an Instagram person, you can find me at JW_Huff. If you're a Twitter person, you can find me at JWSHuff. No matter where you listen to the show, please do me a big, big favor and leave a rating and review. Preferably a positive one. That's all the time we have for today, but I'll be back very soon. Until then, keep your wits about you and remember, good things happen when you put yourself out there. Bye for now.
I'ma have a blue Christmas. Well, thank you very much.